From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Education in the budget, another round of protests at the Capitol, this time concerning changes to funding for Arizona schools. We take a closer look at the numbers.
Battle over ownership. There's a push to have the feds hand over land in Arizona to the state. But can the state afford managing more land?
And unmanned moneymakers. See how drones are becoming a booming $500 million industry in Arizona.
Cronkite News starts now.
Protesters are gathering outside the state capitol to rally against Governor Doug Ducey's proposed budget cuts to education here in Arizona. Good evening, I'm Brittany Bade.
And I'm Ryan Hill. Protesters are not only standing up for K-12 education, but our state universities as well.
Cronkite News reporter Justin McDuffie is live at the Capitol where the protest has just gotten underway.
The proposed budget has made massive cuts to K-12 education, but Governor Ducey is also making cuts to the university system, and that has many ASU students concerned.
Governor Ducey, although he ran on a platform to support education, has made a very, very clear statement that higher education is absolutely not one of his priorities. And that means that our futures aren't one of his priorities.
Cassidy Pacell is the undergraduate student government president for the ASU Tempe campus. She's upset with the recent budget compromise between the Republican leadership and Governor Doug Ducey. As a part of Governor Ducey's original budget, state universities would have faced a $75 million budget cut. That number has now increased to over $100 million. This has students like Brian Salerno thinking that they will be left to pick up the tab.
Pro has promised that in-state tuition isn't going to go up for this school year, but I do see the potential, especially with these drastic cuts, I do see the potential for in-state tuition to go up, and obviously out-of-state tuition is going to continue to rise as well.
Pacell says that this is a reality for students in our state if the latest budget proposal is passed. That could affect many students.
We are going to have thousands of students that won't be able to pay what our tuition is going to increase to.
Those students are heading to the Capitol today to make sure the legislature hears their voices. The students we talked to fear the reduction in the budget will lead to many cuts at our state universities. That could include tutoring, health services, and many other areas.
I want to make sure that not only do they know that we're listening, but that we're furious because they're taking away our future.
We will continue to cover today's protest and the looming budget crisis that faces Arizona's education system. Live at the state capitol, Justin McDuffie, Cronkite News.
Arizona's population is experiencing a demographic shift. According to the annual Datos report by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Latinos will make up the majority of the state by 2030. Cronkite News reporter Laura Sposato attended a Latino Student Success Conference to find out what the effect Hispanic student community will have on our economic future.
Hispanics are now one of 4 public school students in the nation. Their presence is even greater here in Arizona.
Currently, through the K-8 system in the public schools, more than 50% of those children are already Hispanic.
The Latino Student Success panel held today focused on the importance of community colleges.
Some of the issues that have to be addressed are, why do they pick the community college system in such large numbers? What can you do to make sure that once they start, they finish?
About 45,000 Hispanic students attend a community college in Maricopa County. Gateway is just one of their options.
So there's 10 community colleges spread out throughout Maricopa County that provide support to, if you aggregate them in a number of different ways, a couple 100,000 students participate in the community college system on an annual basis.
Luna says the success of these community college students feeds right back into our economy.
It's an education pipeline. It helps to move students from high school into the post-secondary education environment.
If you earn a college degree, you are going to earn significantly more money over the course of your working life.
Proposed budget cuts, part of the compromise between Governor Doug Ducey and the Republican leadership, would eliminate funding entirely for all community colleges in Maricopa, Pima, and Pinal counties.
The question that maybe we need to ask is whether or not we as a state are going to be investing meaningfully in our education system.
In Phoenix, Laura Sposato, Cronkite News.
Currently, about 2/3 of the Hispanic population in Arizona do not have a college degree. Speakers at the Latino Student Success Conference pushed for an educational movement within their community, and they say they are confident in the future leaders the Maricopa County Community College system will provide.
Right now, the state's education budget will cut 5% from school administrative costs. That means the money for full-time school nurses is on the chopping block. I visited nurses in the Cartwright and Mesa school districts who tell me these budget cuts add insult to injury.
Hi, this is Cindy, the nurse at Palm Lane.
Nurse Cindy Wilt never quite knows what is going to walk through her door.
Children sometimes that break an arm, you know, they're on the monkey bars. We had a incident about 4 years ago where we had a teacher that actually had a heart attack.
From serious issues to stuffy noses,
You just never know what exactly is going to happen.
the unpredictability
We're doing so well.
is what makes having an on-campus nurse so crucial.
My nurses maybe see anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 kids on their campuses, and they might be the only healthcare provider some of these schools, these kids have.
And yet, having school nurses,
It's actually not a requirement.
the funding for full-time nurses could soon disappear.
A lot of times, if they don't have funding for a full-time nurse, they'll have aides.
Yes, you can train a aide to do some of those very black and white kinds of things, but nurses are trained to do problem solving and nursing diagnostic type things.
If you brought in someone that just had first aid training, they don't know how to do medications.
With cases of allergies, diabetes, and asthma continuing to grow in schools, these nurses think their job is now more important than ever.
When they come to school, we have to provide during that school day all the time, because that kid has a right to be here every day, not just when I have a nurse on the campus that day.
The Mesa Public School District will lose $8.5 million, and the Cartwright District will lose $2.4 million if the budget passes as is.
Cronkite News has continuously been following the developments of a medical marijuana growing operation set to be built within 1,000 feet of a residential neighborhood. But today, there's good news for neighbors unhappy with its production. By a vote of 2 to 3, the Board of Adjustments granted the appellate's request and will reconsider the case next month, a decision Sharon Fennell, an opponent of the facility, says she's grateful for.
It's really nice when you see people being willing to correct errors that they made in the beginning. And this was clearly, obviously, an error, how these variances were passed without the community, without the business knowing.
Director of Phoenix Planning and Development Alan Stevenson told Cronkite News that this is a part of the process and that the staff will continue to welcome public comment on the issue.
Lawmakers and stakeholders debated for hours today over a bill that would allow police to withhold the names of officers involved in a fatal incident for 90 days. At the heart of the debate, whether withholding a peace officer's name limited the level of justice for a family affected by an officer-involved shooting. Some community members argued that the bill created an appearance of a cover-up by the police, while others insist it allows the focus to be on the facts rather than emotion. Legislatures focused on whether the bill would help protect the rights of officers and keep their families safe from public harassment.
In Phoenix, we've seen instances where the officer's life is threatened either by a family member of a suspect or by a general member of the public that may be over emotional or have ill intentions to the officer or to the family.
After 3 hours of discussion, the Committee of Military Affairs and Public Safety voted to pass the bill. It's a comeback story 6 months in the making.
Ahead, we take a trip to visit the rainbow trout in Mojave County, which are finally back in their hatchery.
And we'll take a look at the debate over state land, how Arizona is trying to grab ownership of federal land in our state lines. You're watching Cronkite News, now airing on 8HD.
This winter, we'll take you to the heart of Downton.
You have to take control of your feelings before they take control of you.
Thomas. We'll place you at the scene of the crime.
Trouble seeks you out, doesn't it? Yes.
And we'll fly you to the ends of the earth.
Are you seeing this?
Support the one place that can take you any place.
Hi, I'm Beth McDonald, host of 8's brand new show, Arizona Collectibles. Filming for Season 2 is right around the corner. For your chance to be a guest on the show, visit us online at azpbs.org/collectibles.
That's wonderful.
Okay. Make sure to sign up early because spots fill up fast. I look forward to meeting you and seeing your treasures. Until then, thanks for watching. Thursday nights at 7:30 on 8HD.
News doesn't stop on Friday at 7:30 at night. PBS NewsHour Weekend is kind of a natural next step. The NewsHour's been committed to being available on air or online, and now weekdays or weekends. There's no shortage of news that's out there, but why do people come to us? To give them some context and analysis that they can't find somewhere else.
PBS NewsHour Weekend, only on PBS. Check local listings.
Back in September, Cronkite News told you about a negative economic impact from issues with a fish hatchery in Mojave County.
A pipeline issue meant Lake Mojave could not be restocked with rainbow trout. But now, as Cronkite News reporter Sydney Schumann explains, those fish will be coming back.
On Wednesday, the Arizona Game and Fish Department, Mojave County, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service came up with an agreement that will restore rainbow trout stocking at the Willow Beach National Fish Hatchery and fix the broken pipeline. This will allow people to again fish for trout along the Colorado River. Nick Walter of the Arizona Game and Fish Department says that the stocking program is vital to the economy because it affects not just fishing stores, but hotels and restaurants in the area too. He says this agreement is a big win for current and future fishermen all over the state.
The stocking program is so important in making sure that there are sport fish available for recreational opportunities. So this just kind of keeps it going, not only for us now, but for future generations.
In a statement, Arizona Senator John McCain said, quote, "This agreement is vitally important to the angling community in Arizona, which supports approximately 1,700 jobs and generates $75 million in economic activity along the Mojave County, Clark County stretch of the lower Colorado River." In part, the agreement states that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will repair the broken pipeline and for 5 years supply the rainbow trout. They will split the cost of the pipeline 50-50 with the Willow Beach National Fish Hatchery. Live in the broadcast center, Sydney Schumann, Cronkite News.
Republican lawmakers have drafted multiple bills this session that could change who controls Arizona's land. Cronkite News reporter Angie Schuster talked to one of the primary sponsors of the bills about their fight against the federal government.
Arizona Representative Brenda Barton says it's time for the United States to transfer all federal land within Arizona to the ownership of the state.
The red areas represents the areas of federal ownership and or control and or management. You can see there is a great divide east of Colorado.
If House Bill 2321 passes, current federally maintained land like the Tonto National Forest would be under the management of the state of Arizona. One concern that many Arizonans have is that the state won't be able to afford to manage the extra land.
We have 9.2 million acres of state trust lands that are not being cared for the way they should and properly managed.
Barton also authored HCR 2005, a memorandum that outlines her opposition to the amount of federally owned land in the state, almost 54 million acres.
The way the public lands are at this time is out of balance. The western states are predominantly owned and or managed by the federal government. The memorandum to Congress is really that beginning step.
Barton says that any increased revenue from the land transfer could go toward education, but environmentalists are concerned about the quality of care for the land.
To make sure that it's here, you know, and protected for us to enjoy now, but also for future generations.
This isn't the first time Barton has pushed for Arizona to win this land battle, but she's hopeful that this time will put the land under the state's control. In Payson, Angie Schuster, Cronkite News.
House Bill 2321 is waiting for a vote by the full House that would send it to the Senate. Arizona has an official bird, a flower, and even a state gun. And today, Arizona is one step closer to having a new state symbol. The House Committee for Government and Higher Education passed Senate Bill 1441, which would give the Grand Canyon State its official state medal, copper. Senator Steve Smith was the sponsor of the bill, but he had a little bit of inspiration from a local elementary school in his district. They came up with a legislative proposal that Smith thought was a solid idea.
I think it's a great statement for the state. It's copper is in many parts what we're known for. Like I said, it's one of the 5 C's, and it's a massive economic engine in our industry. So kudos to the kids and kudos to the teacher.
The bill passed through the House with flying colors with 7 votes of approval. It now heads to the Rules Committee. And if you want to take a quiz on the other C's of Arizona, head to CronkiteNewsOnline.com. Arizona is on track to become one of the leaders of drone use across the country.
Coming up, how these unmanned aircrafts could boost Arizona's economy.
And later, bars in Tempe are facing new restrictions to help keep motorists safe. You're watching Cronkite News, now airing on 8 HD.
For veterans, coming back to civilian life brings new challenges, new opportunities, and new stories of remarkable courage and accomplishment. Sharing their stories can help communities understand the veteran experience, and through Arizona Veterans Coming Home, 8 connects veterans and their families to resources and services for a successful transition to civilian life. Explore some of the best resources and opportunities for veterans at azpbs.org/veterans. Arizona Veterans Coming Home, connecting Arizona's veterans to the right resources at the right time. Watch sneak previews of what's coming soon to 8. Go to azpbs.org/previews today. Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University, delivers new ideas and new worlds to the explorer in you.
The FAA proposed regulations in February that would allow drones to be used commercially. Cronkite News reporter Lauren Klinda found out exactly what this could mean for the state of Arizona.
A new study shows Arizona is expected to be one of the top states in the country for drone use, and it's expected to bring big bucks into our economy as well.
The proposed FAA regulations will open the door for commercial usage. The entire commercial world is waiting for the FAA to ratify these regulations.
Drone businesses are popping up around the state, preparing for what they believe will be the next big market.
Our goal is to understand industry as well as we understand the drones, so the two can dovetail together to produce value.
But the regulations could have an impact on more than just enthusiasts and prospective commercial users. The economic impact of drones is expected to soar as high as the drones themselves. According to a recent study by the Association of Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, the study also ranked Arizona 5th in the country in terms of financial gains from the drone industry, with job creation and additional revenue.
Well, essentially it'll add value to your daily life.
The AUVSI has estimated that within the first 3 years, the drone industry will have a $561 million impact in Arizona and create almost 3,000 jobs.
Really no limit to the usage for these things in so many industries. People haven't really thought about how they might be able to use this in their businesses.
Arizona's projected fiscal impact continues to increase and is expected to surpass $3 billion in revenue by the year 2025. Live in the broadcast center, Lauren Klenda, Cronkite News.
Bars and restaurants may have to think twice before designing their patios. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Stein took a look at how new regulations in Tempe will affect those businesses.
Brittany, if you walk down any street corner in any city center, you're sure to find television screens peeking out from windows or even out in the open air. But those screens may be harder to find now that Tempe City Council has put new rules into effect.
Mill Avenue is one of Tempe's busiest streets, with bars and restaurants on every corner, and televisions are becoming a staple of the outdoor nightlife experience.
There's a lot of bright colors, and I definitely look over to see what's going on. I can definitely see people getting distracted.
Lisa Ligori is an ASU senior who spends a lot of time on Mill, and she now sees the need for screen regulations.
I think it's good for the city just because I know that like there's flashing lights and there's so many things going on in the bars and the TV.
As technology gets more popular, business owners are taking advantage of patio space and making it an entertainment destination.
People always had patio space designs. I think it just, as our technology grows and expands, people are utilizing, it's more affordable to get those flat screen televisions.
The city of Scottsdale already set restrictions on screens visible to road traffic. Now, Tempe just passed an ordinance to make outdoor screen use safer by regulating things like placement, location, and number of televisions.
We don't want it to distract motorists, so that's one element that we want to take into consideration. We want to make sure the televisions aren't being used for signage purposes, that it's intended for the enjoyment of the patio.
The new rules won't impact businesses with screen-filled patios already in place. Only new businesses will have to submit designs for review.
I think with all the bars getting popping up in Tempe and Scottsdale, that I think that regulations on the TVs could be beneficial for people's safety.
Although no specific incidents prompted Tempe City Council to put these rules into place, they do believe they'll be beneficial for future businesses. Live in downtown Phoenix, Nicole Stein, Cronkite News.
You know, I stepped outside just before the newscast, and it is beautiful downtown today.
The sun is finally back and the temps are on the rise again. Angela Meehan is here with a check of your forecast.
Well, you may have needed a light jacket when you stepped out of the door this morning, but you can set that aside for now because it is heating up out there. It's seasonal out there, so we're right around where we should be this time of year. High pressure is continuing, is gradually taking over, so that's going to increase temperatures over the week, and we're definitely going to see lots of sunshine. This picture was taken outside our Weather Central Terrace, and as you can see, beautiful, clear, and sunny skies out there. Enjoy it because the rest of the country, not so warm. We have New York at 21 degrees, and it's also snowing over there. Snowstorm Thor has moved from the Midwest to the East Coast, and that's creating more snow in the region. So there's a weather advisory for New York City, but back here in the state, clear skies. The high country is the coolest part of the state in the 40s and 50s. Winslow, 54. And tonight here in Phoenix, we're going to dip down to 46 degrees. Clear skies until tomorrow. Let's take a look at your 5-day forecast. We're going to reach the 80s. We're going to reach the 80s this weekend and clear skies all week long. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Angela Meehan.
Will it stay? We told you last week of the future of Enchanted Island looked grim. Coming up, we hear from one of the Phoenix officials who decided to give this beloved Phoenix theme park another chance. We'll be right back.
Should I believe in the world, Mama?
I think so.
Should I give up and hide, or should I stay and fight? Should I believe in the rules, Mama?
What are the consequences?
Can I speak out my mind in these changing times? I don't know what to believe, Mama.
Will you march with us?
There's a fire inside, there's a storm on the rise. Give me a reason to be, Mama.
Buonasera.
'Cause I need someone to believe.
The world is more complicated than it's ever been.
The NewsHour is always going to take you deeper and take you broader.
And that is worth fighting for.
Night after night, 7 days a week.
I'm Maria Hinojosa. I'm Gwen Eiffel. And I'm Judy Woodruff.
On behalf of all of us here, thanks for watching.
Cronkite News is proud to join the Arizona PBS News Block here on 8 HD.
Here's a look at what's coming up tonight on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
Coming up after Cronkite News, it's Arizona Horizon. Hear about a 35-year transportation plan for the city of Phoenix, and we'll check out a new book that illustrates the history of work in Arizona. That's coming up on Arizona Horizon.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next NewsHour. Foreclosures in Florida, making sense of a still struggling real estate market.
It's a valley icon, the Enchanted Island amusement area in Encanto Park. And there's good news for the people that fought to make sure it kept running. Ariel Rose has more on the latest decision of the city of Phoenix.
As part of this park,
for many, many, many years.
And it looks like it will stay that way, at least for the next year. The City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Board held a public meeting to decide the fate of the operation of Enchanted Island, and those that attended made sure their voice was heard.
New competition comes in and everybody's looking to make money somehow.
But the current operators of Encanto Adventures has been running the park for the past 25 years. Craig Line even met his wife there.
We love the amusement park. We don't want it going anywhere, and we want to just continue on and move forward.
And the board unanimously agreed, giving Lion a 1-year contract to continue operating Enchanted Island.
I think today's decision was a win-win for the community. Personally, it means that we see the public support for it. And that their heart is in the same place that our heart is.
After that 1-year extension, operation of the park will be open to bidders, but it does include the possibility of a 5-year renewal with Encanto Adventures.
So what this does is it gives us more time to be able to go through that process and then ensure that regardless of what happens, that there won't be an interruption in service.
We get to share those memories with the community and the family that takes their children on their first ride. It blesses us.
And a future of more first rides for the Valley, at least in the short term. In Phoenix, Ariel Rose, Cronkite News.
If the board did not agree on the 1-year extension, Enchanted Island would have closed by June 1st.
And that's it for Cronkite News tonight.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Find top Arizona stories anytime at CronkiteNewsOnline.com.